Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad in Wyoming. I'm Mark Pruitt, Casper Roundhouse Foreman. Today is January 3rd, 2022, and this is layout update number 26. I hope you all had a happy holiday season, and I also hope you're recovered from whatever celebrations you may participate in when turning the calendar to the new year. December had several milestones for the layout and for the YouTube channel, and if you've watched the other videos I posted in late December, you'll know what those milestones were. If you haven't seen the videos, I'll leave a link in the description below. So let's go take a look and see what happened during the month of December. We ended layout construction last month with the Chicago and Northwestern track laid just past the turnback curve at the free end of the Wind River Canyon Peninsula. Here's a test train that has just completed a run over all the installed track. The cold I was battling when I did my December update got worse, so for over a week I did no work on the layout. Once I was feeling better though, I was back at work. First, I hopped onto the computer and detailed out the Riverton benchwork and track layout in preparation for building this area. On the 16th, I started doing the actual construction by fabricating and mounting the wall-hugging stringers for Riverton. The next day, I mounted the aisleway stringer for Riverton and some of the cross members. If you look close, you'll see that the end of the stringer nearest the camera is suspended from above using a threaded rod. I hate to have something like that in the middle of what will be a scenic area, but the other option was a leg coming up from the Powder River benchwork below. The 3/16" threaded rod seemed less objectionable than a 2x2 coming up from the scene below, so the threaded rod is what I went with. Here's another view of the Riverton benchwork as of the middle of the month. It stayed this way for several days as I turned my attention to finishing the CNW benchwork on the end wall adjacent to Riverton and to track work on the peninsula. About this time, I set myself the goal of having the CNW line connected and operational all the way through from Casper to Hudson. That meant a lot of work to complete in just 2 weeks, but now I had a target to shoot for. I still had some missing parts of the Riverton benchwork to finish, most notably the tapered segment stringer that connects from the threaded rod support block to the stringer on the narrower section. By the 23rd of the month, I had the track laid all the way back to the end of the peninsula, that's the end near Shobon, so I was able to get back to the Riverton benchwork. Using my cordless drill and screwdriver, my chop saw, and a table saw, I screwed together a couple of short 2x6s, then cut the odd notch I needed to support the tapered segment stringer. Here's that block and the tapered section stringer installed. Still on the 23rd, I cut the plywood sub-road bed for the Riverton area and installed it, finishing it up on the 24th. On the 25th, yes, Christmas Day, and the 26th, I cut and glued down the cork sheeting in the Riverton area. I also started building the 2 turnouts I would need for the siding in Riverton. On the 27th, I laid out the track arrangement for Riverton. In this view, the track from Casper comes in from the far end and leaves for Hudson at the bottom of the picture. On the 28th, I laid track from the peninsula onto the narrow section at the end wall. This section will be basically identical to the narrow shelf above Casper when finished. Later that same evening, track was laid on the curve leading into Riverton itself. The next day, the siding turnout was laid at the east end of Riverton, that's the Casper side, and the track laid to the west end turnout. And on the 30th, the final bit of track was laid, including the west end turnout and everything a few feet past that to connect to the track on the shelf over Casper. I was close to my goal. Track was in place all the way from Casper to Hudson. The siding and industry spur aren't in place in Riverton yet, but the track connected all the way from Casper to Hudson. Now it just needed a few wiring connections to meet my goal. On the 31st, I jury-rigged some temporary wiring so I had power all the way down the CNW line. During that last week or so, while I was waiting for glue to dry on Riverton's cork sheets and waiting for caulk to dry on newly installed track, I was also busy cutting and installing fencing for the CNW line. I was really concerned about trains on that narrow roadbed so high above the floor. Since the CNW line will be hidden behind the cliff walls of the Wind River Canyon all the way down and back on the peninsula, there will always be that 4 to 6 foot drop all the way to the floor if equipment comes off the track. So I came up with these 2-inch high fences to keep things from taking a tumble. So what did I make these fences out of? Scrap sections of 080 styrene skyboard and the old hilly backdrop from version 1 of the layout in New Jersey. It pays to never throw anything away. In the waning hours of 2021, I ran the first Chicago and Northwestern revenue train all the way from Casper to Hudson. I posted a video of it on the YouTube channel. Here's just a few short excerpts. You'll find a link to the full video in the description. Oh yeah, and there's one more thing. The locomotive in this video is the 10-wheeler I was installing the TCS Wow Sound kit in at the end of the December update. It runs beautifully, and as you can hear, sounds great. In the first couple of days of 2022, I finished the fence all the way to the top of the CNW line on the peninsula. I've also started replacing this temporary wiring with the permanent installation. That should be completed in the next day or so. One last thing for the month. I did take the trip to Thermopolis I mentioned I was planning at the end of December's update. I got a lot of good information for modeling Thermopolis, enough to lay out the track arrangements for the town on the layout. And here's a preliminary list of industries for the town, including traffic types, sources, and car types for the industries. In addition to the industries shown here, I'm thinking of including one more, Empire State Oil, a small refinery. I'm not sure on that one though, since I already have the Standard Oil Refinery in Casper and the Husky Oil Refinery to be built in Cody. There were refineries in many small towns in Wyoming in my modeled era, but adding this one in Thermopolis may just be too repetitive. We'll see. And that's it. This month, I want to lay Burlington tracks into Thermopolis. Then I may go back and install the secondary trackage in Riverton, or push on with additional benchwork out of Thermopolis towards Grable. Or maybe I'll start roughing in scenery for the Wind River Canyon. Then again, I need to build stock pens for Powder River and a lot more structures for Casper and now Riverton. Whew, so many choices. I guess you'll just have to watch the February update to see what I finally decide to do. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next month.